Hey everybody, in this video we are going to do an SAT math test with no calculator. We get 25 minutes to answer 20 questions, and as always on the SAT we have these formulas at our disposal. For number 1, a painter will paint N walls with the same size and shape in a building using a specific brand of paint. The painter's fee can be calculated by this expression, where N is the number of walls, K is a constant with units of dollars per square foot, L is the length of each wall in feet, and H is the height of each wall. If the customer asks the painter to use a more expensive brand of paint, which of the factors would change? The height of the walls will not change, the length of the walls will not change, the number of walls will not change, but the cost per square foot, K, will change. If 3r equals 18, what is the value of 6r plus 3? So we're going to use this equation to find a value of r. So we'll divide both sides by 3 and find that r equals 6. So what's the value of 6r plus 3? That's 6 times 6 plus 3. 6 times 6 is 36, plus 3 is 39, and that is option D. Which of the following is equal to a to the 2/3 power for all values of a? So a to the 2/3 power is the same as a to the 2 times 1/3 power, and the 1/3 power is the same as the third root, or the cubed root. So it's the cubed root of a squared, and that is option D. The number of states that joined the United States between 1776 and 1849 is twice the number of states that joined between 1850 and 1900. If 30 states joined between 1776 and 1849, so in this group of years here there were 30 states, and X states joined between 1850 and 1900, which of the following statements is true? Okay, so 30 joined between 1776 and 1849, and that number is, so 30 is twice the number of states, X, that joined between 1850 and 1900. So 30 equals 2X, that is option B. Number 5, if 5 over x equals 15 over x plus 20. What is the value of x over 5? Okay, so let's do our cross product. So we get 15x equals, 5 times x plus 20. I'm going to distribute that, and we get 5x plus, and then 5 times 20 is 100. Okay, so then I can subtract 5x from both sides and get 10x equals 100, and divide by 10 and get x equals 10. So what is the value of x over 5? It would be really tempting to say, okay, 10, that's my answer, but it doesn't want the value of x. It wants x divided by 5, and that is 10 divided by 5, which is 2, option C. Number 6, we want to find the value of x minus y in this system of equations. Okay, so to solve this system of equations, what I will do is multiply this top equation here by 3 and this one by -2, and by doing that I will be able to cancel out the x's. Okay, so this top equation is going to be 6x minus 9y equals, and then positive times negative is negative, 14 times 3, and remember we have to do this without a calculator, so 14 plus 14 is 28, plus another 14 is 42. And then this second equation multiplied by -2 is -6x plus 4y equals, and then negative times negative is positive, 2 times 6 is 12. Now, when I combine these, the x's will cancel. Negative 9y plus 4y is negative 5y. And negative 42 plus 12, that's going to be negative 30. And then divide by negative 5. Negative divided by negative is positive. 30 divided by 5 is 6. So I find that y equals 6. Now I'll plug that into one of the original two equations to get the value of x. So I'll put this into the top equation. 2x minus 3 times 6 equals negative 14. Okay, so then negative 3 times 6 is negative 18. 2x minus 18 equals negative 14. So I will add 18 and get 2x equals negative 14 plus 18 is 4. And divide by 2 and I get x equals 2. So I've got y is 6 and x is 2. The question is, what is x minus y? Okay, so x minus y is 2 minus 6. And that is negative 4, option C. The function f is defined by a polynomial. Some values of x and f of x are shown in the table above. Which of the following must be a factor of f of x? So I've got some options here that could be part of the factored form of f of x. Okay, so in order to find those factors, or one that is a factor, the easiest thing to do would be to find a solution to this function. A solution is where the function crosses the x-axis. When the function crosses the x-axis, y is 0. This right here is a solution or a 0 of the graph. So a solution is 4, which means that a factor is x minus 4. Because then 4 minus 4 would give me a y value of 0. The line y equals kx plus 4, where k is a constant, okay, and that k is the slope of the line, is graphed in the xy plane. If the line contains the point CD, so there's an x and a y, C and D, where C and D are both not 0, what is the slope of the line in terms of C and D? Okay, so I can plug C and D into this equation. Y is D equals k times x, and x is C, plus 4. So it wants the slope. So in other words, solve for the slope, so we're going to get k by itself. So we'll move this 4 to the other side, and it becomes D minus 4 equals k times C. And we'll divide both sides by C, and we get k equals D minus 4 over C, which is option A. Number 9, in the system of equations above, k is a constant and x and y are variables. For what value of k will the system of equations have no solution? They will have no solution when the slopes are the same. So we're going to find a value for k that makes the slopes the same. So for this line right here, let's find the slope. Okay, so I'll move this 4x to the other side and get negative 5y equals negative 4x plus 7. And I'll divide everything by negative 5, so y equals positive 4/5 x minus 7/5. Okay, so I'll call this right here 4/5 slope 1. Slope 1 is 4/5. Now let's find the slope for this line. So I'll move kx over, so I get negative 3y equals negative kx plus 4. And I'll divide everything by negative 3. Y equals k over 3x minus 4 over 3. So there's the slope here. So the slope of line 2 here is k over 3. Okay, so the system will have no solutions when the slopes are exactly the same. So when k over 3 is the same as 4 over 5. So if I multiply this 3 across, I'll get k by itself, and k equals 12/5, and that is option A. In the xy plane, a parabola with equation x minus 11 squared intersects the line with equation y equals 25 at 2 points, A and B. What is the length of segment AB? So we've got a line, y equals 25, and I'll just graph that right here, and a parabola that is going to intersect it at 2 points. And those points are points A and B. We want to know the length of segment AB. So I need to know these x values where the two intersect. Okay? So the two will intersect when they are set equal to each other. So if y equals this and y equals this, then I can say these two equal each other, and that will give me my two intersection points. X minus 11 squared equals 25. Okay, now I can take a square root right here and get x minus 11 equals plus or minus the square root of 25, which is plus or minus 5. And then I can add 11. Okay, so I have 5 plus 11. 5 plus 11 is 16. And then I have negative 5 plus 11, which is 6. So I've got x values of 6 and 16. From 6 to 16 is a distance of 10, option A. In the figure above, lines K, L, and M intersect at a point. If x plus y is equal to u plus w, which of the following must be true? X equals z, y equals w, z equals t. It could be two of those, or it could be all three. Okay, so what I know about intersections like this is that vertical angles are congruent. So x and t are the same. So x is equal to t. Z and w are the same, so z is equal to w. Y and u are the same, so y is equal to u. Okay, now none of those actually match this, so we'll have to do a little bit more work. But we know that x plus y is equal to u plus w. Okay, now look, u and y and u are the same. Okay, so if these two are the same, if x plus y equals u plus w, so I'm adding the same value to x and w, then x must be equal to w. Okay, now that still doesn't quite match anything in our list. But if x equals w and z also equals w, then x must be equal to z. So that one is true. Okay, so option C is out because I know that option 1, that 1 is true, and this doesn't include 1. Okay, so I know that those two are equal. Now let's see if y and w are equal or if z and t are equal. So if x is equal to z and x is also equal to t, then z must be equal to t. So z equals t, that one is true. Okay, so 1 and 3 are both true, so it can't be 1 and 2 only. Okay, now I have to see if there's a way to link y and w. I've got y is equal to u, and I don't have u or y equal to anything else, so I can't say for sure that y is equal to w, so I'm going to go with option B. In the quadratic equation above, a is a non-zero constant. The graph of the equation in the xy plane is a parabola with vertex CD. Which of the following is equal to D? So I'm going to graph what I know of this parabola. So this parabola has x-intercepts at 2 and negative 4. Okay, so if I graph it, it's going to look like this. At 2 and negative 4, I've got x-intercepts. So it will look about like this. Okay, now let's try to figure out this vertex. The vertex is on the axis of symmetry, which has to be halfway between these 2 points. Okay, so halfway between -4 and 2. Now if I come 3 this way and 3 this way, puts me right here. The axis of symmetry is right here. The vertex is the point CD, and I know now that the x-coordinate of the vertex is -1. So the vertex is actually at -1D. Which of the following is equal to D? Okay, so that would be the y value of the vertex. So let's plug in the x value of the vertex here, and when we solve for y, we will get the y value of the vertex, which is D. Okay, so we have y equals a times x minus 2, so that's -1 minus 2, times x plus 4, so that's -1 plus 4. So y equals a times -1 minus 2 is -3, and -1 plus 4 is 3. Okay, and then -3 times 3 is -9, so y equals -9a. And that is the value of D. That is option A. For number 13, this equation is true for all values of x that are not 2 over a, where a is a constant. What is the value of a? Now, to solve this equation, I would multiply the entire thing by the denominator ax minus 2. Now, when I distribute that here, these will cancel. Okay, so I'm left with 24x squared plus 25x minus 47 equals, when I distribute here, okay, so here in this part, it does not cancel. Okay, so I have ax minus 2 times -8x minus 3. And when I distribute to this part right here, it does cancel, so I have minus 53. Okay, now I should have parentheses right here because it's ax squared times -8x minus 3, so I should have parentheses there, then minus 53. Okay, now I'm going to leave this side alone for a while, and here I'll do some distributing, so I have -8ax squared minus 3ax plus 16x plus 6 minus 53. Okay, so now I've got like terms here that I can combine. So I have -8ax squared minus 3ax plus 16x minus 47 equals 24x squared plus 25x minus 47. Okay, now there are corresponding elements here on each side that are going to be equal. The x squared term is going to equal this x squared term. The x term is going to equal these two x terms combined, and then the -47 equals -47. Okay, now I can use these to solve for a. 24x squared equals -8ax squared. To get a by itself, I can divide by -8x squared, and I get -3 equals a. Option B. For number 14, what are the solutions to this equation? Let's use the quadratic formula. That's x equals opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so here x equals -b, the opposite of b is -12, plus or minus the square root of b squared. B is 12, so that's 12 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is 6, all over 2 times a, which is 3. Now remember, we can't use a calculator here, but I don't think these numbers are going to be too big for us. So we get negative 12 plus or minus the square root of 12 squared is 144 minus 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 5 is 60, so 12 times 6 is 12 more than that, so 12 times 6 is 72. All over 2 times 3, which is 6. So that's negative 12 plus or minus the square root of, and we have 144 minus 72. 72 is half of 144, so 144 minus 72 is 72, all over 6. Okay, so now we still need to keep simplifying because it doesn't quite match anything here yet. So negative 12 plus or minus the square root of 72 is not a square number, but it's divisible by a square number. 72 is the same as 36 times 2. Okay, so I'll divide then by 6. So I've got negative 12 plus or minus, the square root of 36 is 6, times the square root of 2 all over 6. And now I can simplify by dividing each term by 6. So that's negative 12 divided by 6 is negative 2. 6 over 6 is 1 times the square root of 2. So that's negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 2, which is option A. For 15, the equation above shows how a temperature F in degrees Fahrenheit relates to a temperature C measured in degrees Celsius. Based on the equation, which of the following must be true? So it could be statement 1, 2, 3, or 1 and 2. A temperature increase of 1 degree Fahrenheit is equivalent to a temperature increase of 5/9 degrees Celsius. So if I add 1 to whatever the Fahrenheit number is, I am going to multiply that by 5/9. So an increase in 1 degree Fahrenheit is an increase in 5/9 of a degree Celsius. So 1 is true. Okay? So it can't be 2 only or 3 only. So even if I have to guess from here, my answer will involve 1. So I'm guessing now 1 out of 2 instead of 1 out of 4. Okay, so next, a temperature increase of 1 degree Celsius. So if I add 1 here to the degrees Celsius, that's equivalent to a temperature increase of 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so now if I add 1 here, that affects it by the reciprocal. So if I move this over here, it's by the reciprocal, which is 9/5. And 9/5 is actually 1.8. Okay, so I'm affecting by the reciprocal 9/5. That is 1.8, so 2 is true, which means it's going to be 1 and 2 that are both true. Next, we move on to the grid portion. Okay, so on the grid portion, we can use decimals. We can use a slash for a fraction. There are no negatives, so no negative numbers will come up in this free response section. If x is greater than 0, which actually tells us no negatives, what is one possible solution to the equation above? Okay, so my solution has to be above 0. All right, so in order to solve this equation, let's distribute this x cubed and let's move this over. So we'll have x to the 5th minus 5x cubed plus 4x equals 0. Okay, now we can factor an x out of this side. So we'll have x times x to the 4th minus 5x squared plus 4 equals 0. Okay, so that's x times, and now we're going to factor this trinomial into 2 binomials. Okay, so we want 2 numbers that multiply to make 4 and add up to -5. Okay, those 2 numbers are going to be -4 and -1. So when I multiply them, I get +4. When I add them, I get -5. Okay, but this is slightly different from most of the time when we factor, where we would have x minus 4 times x minus 1. Since it's the 4th power and the 2nd power here, it's going to be x squared minus 4 and x squared minus 1. Now we can get 5 solutions from this, and I know that because the biggest exponent is 5, so there's definitely 5 solutions. So in order to get those solutions, first, what value of x makes this factor a 0? 0. Okay, but I can't put 0 as my answer because it says it has to be greater than 0. Okay, how about what value of x makes this factor a 0? I'll set it equal to 0 here and solve. So x squared equals positive 4, and the square root tells me x is plus or minus 2. So I've got negative 2 and positive 2 as solutions. And then x squared minus 1 set equal to 0. So x squared is 1, and the square root tells me x is plus or minus 1. So negative 1 and positive 1 are solutions. So what can I put in the grid? One solution that is greater than 0. I could choose 1, or I could choose 2, and either one of those would be an okay answer. Okay, so here's an equation. What is the value of x? Okay, so first I've got like terms here. Let's combine them. They even have a common denominator, so I can just subtract these. 7/9 x minus 4/9 x is 3/9 x. Okay, then 1/4 plus 5/12. I can get a common denominator and combine these. If I multiply top and bottom here by 3, I will have 3/12. So I've really got 3/12 plus 5/12, and that is 8/12. Now before we go further, let's simplify these. 3 over 9 is 1/3. 1/3 x equals, and 8 over 12, 4 goes into both of those. 4 goes into 8 2 times, and into 12 3 times. So 1/3 x equals 2/3. Okay, so now let's multiply by the reciprocal to cancel this, and x is 6 over 3. So x is 2, and that is what will go in my grid. Number 18. 2 isosceles triangles are shown above. Okay, now it's shown that these are isosceles with these marks, but this is also true. These angles have to be congruent, these base angles of this isosceles triangle, as well as these base angles. If 180 minus z equals 2y, and y is 75, then what is the value of x? Now, when I do 180 minus one angle of a triangle, it tells me how many degrees are left in that triangle for the other 2 angles. Okay, so it says 180 minus z is 2y. So 180 minus this angle gives me 2y to split between these 2 angles, which means this angle is y degrees and this angle is y degrees. And it tells me y is 75. So I know this angle right here is 75 degrees. What is the value of x? Well, I've got a linear pair here. 180 right here, y plus x. That's 180 degrees. So 180 minus 75, that's 105. And that is the value of x. Number 19, at a lunch stand, each hamburger has 50 more calories than each order of fries. So a hamburger's calories is the same as a fry calorie plus 50. If 2 hamburgers and 3 orders of fries has a total of 1,700 calories, so 2 hamburgers plus 3 orders of fries is 1,700, how many calories does a hamburger have? Okay, so let's get rid of f in this equation by doing this. I'm going to move this 50 over here, and I'll have h minus 50 equals f. So that means I can substitute this for f. So I've got 2h plus 3 times, and f is now h minus 50, equals 1700. Now, if I solve for h, I'll know how many calories there are in a hamburger. So let's distribute this. 2h plus 3h minus 150 equals 1700. So we will add 150. So I've got 5h equals 1700 plus 150. That's 1850. And I'll divide by 5. Okay, so 1850 divided by 5. So 5 goes into 1850 how many times? 5 goes into 18 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15, so I'll subtract. 18 minus 15 is 3, and bring down the 5. 35 divided by 5 is 7. 7 times 5 is 35. Subtract and get 0, and bring down the 0. 0 divided by 5 is 0. There are 370 calories in a hamburger. In triangle ABC, the measure of angle B is 90 degrees. So here's triangle A, B, C, and B is 90 degrees. Triangle DEF, let's get the rest of that information. Sorry about that. BC is 16. AC is 20. Triangle DEF is similar to triangle ABC. So it's a similar triangle, which means there is a right angle. The right angle is going to line up with B, so angle E is the right angle. Okay, so then D goes with A, so DEF. Okay, so then we're told that triangle DEF is 1/3. Every side is 1/3 the length of the corresponding side of ABC. So that means this side is 20/3, and this side is 16/3. What is the value of sine F? Okay, so here's F. I want sine of F, and that's opposite over hypotenuse, but we don't have opposite. Let's use this triangle and the Pythagorean theorem to get this. So we've got 16 squared plus b squared equals 20 squared. Remember, the hypotenuse goes by itself. Okay, so b squared equals 20 squared, that's 400, minus 16 squared, and 16 squared is 256. Okay, so now I subtract, and 400 minus 256 is 144. So b squared is 144, which means b is 12. So this length here is 12, which means this length right here is 12/3. Okay, so now sine F is opposite over hypotenuse. That's 12/3 over 20/3. Okay, now these 3's in the denominator, those will cancel. So I've got 12 over 20. And 12 over 20 can be simplified. 4 goes into each 3 times and 5 times. So in the grid will be 3/5.